The CEO on the Edge podcast is brought to you by Kogi. We set companies in motion. My guest today has seen the world of consulting, global insurance, and now leads the leading reinsurer in Central and Eastern Europe. On his LinkedIn profile, he quotes Leonardo da Vinci. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. For him, that means breaking down complex challenges into the clear, communicatable solution that delivers measurable business results. Who is Tobias Sonndorfer? What drives him forward, and how he is putting VIG Re into motion? Tobias, welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much, Pavel. Great to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Tobias, you once said, at VIG Re, our principle is constantly question the status quo. Let me put you on the spotlight right now, and would you mind to tell us the one status quo which you are just now questioning?
Well, that is certainly a broad statement. If I look into VIG Re and reflect of where our focus currently is on, I would say it's about digitization. Mm-hmm. So we see, like in many other industries, that data and technology is eating into our business, and we need to adapt consistently to be able to incorporate technology into our business model going forward. And I'm not only thinking about and talking about AI here, which is certainly a major discussion. It's really about the usage of data and how we're able to leverage on data going forward to assess risks continuously and better for us and for our clients.
Okay, how it goes?
It's not a straight line, let's put it this way.
Okay, not surprised actually. We have a couple of other clients who are facing the same discussion, and they are not that far from your comment actually. Okay, so today we want to cover a couple of topics. The one of them, which is really interesting for me and believe for our listeners as well, is your handover actually, because you were succeeding Johannesu Martin after 13 or 14 years. Actually, he was running a very successful company. How it went, actually?
Well, first of all, I have to say that certainly after a CEO who had such an influence on an organization, it took time to get that handover organized in a structured way. I would say the good thing for us was that it was not an ad hoc handover. So I had the chance to be onboarded at the beginning of 2023, and then we had a 2-year handover period, basically, until I then had the pleasure to take on the CEO position from the 1st of January 2025. So it wasn't an abrupt or a disruptive change. It was rather smoothly done, handed over the first year, certainly with a great opportunity for me to get to know the company, to get to know the new environment, and then more and more during the course of the second year to really make this handover happening.
Okay, this is very untypical on the market, actually. Having a chance to shadow and follow the existing or the recent CEO for almost 18 months, if I'm not mistaken, actually. How it was, actually, being at the same room, sitting with your colleagues at the chairs and not being in this executive position which you used to be before, right, actually?
Well, we had an advantage in that sense that we worked together before. Okay. So it was not that we got to know each other when I joined VIG Re. We had a relationship before. We knew each other before since many years. And I think that helped certainly the whole process. So in hindsight, I believe that it was a process which I would describe as very cooperative and collaborative, at least between the two of us. Does not mean that we have different opinion on certain aspects, because I'm a different manager. I have different ideas how the company should run in the future, but it was all been done in a very cooperative way. And I believe the time, specifically the first year for me to get into that new environment, was very beneficial.
Okay, super. You said actually at the moment when you were taking over the company that you want to take it to the next level, actually, right? And seeing the numbers before, actually, at least the financial results, it was very healthy, well managed, actually, delivering a great results. What this next level means, actually, what was that for you, actually? What is the challenge which you want to actually basically either take or deliver, actually?
Yeah, you said it very right. So the very specific and good fundament on which I could build on and the team can build on is that we got handed in a very successful, financially healthy and successful organization. That's the starting point. So there was no turnaround case or no restructuring case required, which certainly gives you a great tailwind in the way you would like to develop the business further. And that's the way we approached it, actually. So when we speak about next level, it's about the next development level in the build out of a global reinsurance company. You probably know, and I don't have to explain you, that the reinsurance business model as such is a global model because it works based on diversification. And we would like to capitalize on that diversification going forward. And that diversification we want to use the world for, basically, because of different natural catastrophe scenarios, different client situation, different geopolitical dynamics which are ongoing on the globe.
Okay.
And that more is the next level. It's the question how to build on a very successful European company to make the next step towards a more globalized company.
Super. That's a really interesting topic because for majority of our either clients or the listeners, even the Europe is a great target, right? To being successful in actually Europe, it's let's say the ultimate goal. Actually, majority of them is operating on Central and Eastern Europe or even actually in Czech Republic. Tell me, is it easy to persuade the guys in US, Latino America, actually in Asia, that some still comparing to the other insurance companies, small provider here from Central Europe can manage their business?
I would lie if I say it is easy. It's certainly not. It's a very competitive marketplace, and you have to prove every day, our underwriters need to prove every day why it's good for a client to transact with VIG Re. It's very competitive here in the region. It's very competitive across continental Europe, and it's very competitive globally. That goes without saying. I think what we bring to the table to be successful is certainly our history, because we are we are born in CEE, so to say, with having here the headquarter in Prague in the Czech Republic, and we did the first years basically of our business here in the region, and out of that we grew into continental Europe. And now the question is, how do we continue that growth going forward? And we had a lot of learnings out of that. So we know, we tested what does work, how do we need to interact with our client, how does our value proposition looking like, and how does our client react to our value proposition. And certainly we don't have a one size fits all approach. So a European client is different to a Japanese client, is different to an American client, but at least we know where we're coming from, and we're trying to adapt and bring a good product, a good value proposition towards our clients.
Okay, super. If we return back to your crowd, to your people, how easy or difficult is to change their mindset that they are not a local European reinsurance provider and they are becoming the global reinsurance provider?
Now you get the most typical reinsurance answer possible. It depends.
What does it mean?
That not everyone is the same. So you speak to people about the story to develop a more globalized reinsurer, and some of them are very excited. I was fully buying into the story and can't wait to jump into a plane to go somewhere, actually. And then you certainly have other people who are more used to a more regionalized business and a more localized business even. And then you need to explain more why it is required to think globally. Not everyone is acting globally, but to think globally. I think that is the difference, and it depends. And that is my job, together with my leadership team, to explain the step, to make aware what is good for VIG Re, what is the growth opportunities also for an individual, for a person to go with us on that journey. And that is very individual, a very individualized approach, I would say. Okay,
super. We are truly moving to our main topic at Kogi, which is a culture. And there is the Peter Drucker famous quote about the culture which is eating the strategy board breakfast if they are not aligned, actually. And in your case, I do see two different, let's say, externalities which are influencing the business. The one is basically the growth and the potential of the growth, especially outside of the Europe. And the second is these, and you have touched it a little bit actually at the beginning, the digitalization, automation, AI, and like any other industry, even the finance and reinsurance industry is basically facing that change, So my question is basically how your culture is adapting to that situation, which is, external and you can really manage it. Actually, we need to accept it and adopt it and take it over. Actually, right?
Exactly. I think you put the magic word. It's an adoption that is required. Okay. In my let's say my focus very much is to act deliberate. Mm-hmm. So one of the driving words behind it is deliberate.
Okay.
I fully subscribe to Drucker in that instance. So I believe culture is equally important as strategy, and that certainly needs to change and it needs to evolve over time to reflect that development and the growth of the company. And that's what we are after. So we, for example, at the beginning of the year, we launched a program which we called One VIG Re, and One VIG Re is the umbrella, I would say, for our cultural program. We call that a cultural and change program, where we very proactively put out some values, some ingrained ideas, how we believe we need to work together, we need to communicate together, we need to embrace the developments which we have to be successful going forward, and not in a way that we put a burden on people or we put a burden on the organization, but it's very much in conjunction with our people to orchestrate that development alongside with the strategy. So I'm a big fan, I'm a big supporter of culture in that instance. Okay. I think it's a great leverage, a potential of leverage, so to say. When I speak about that internally, I tend to say that we focus a lot about what we do. Right? You call that strategy, you call that execution, and anything else. And equally important for us is how we do it. Okay. So the how is really in the center on that. Okay.
You said at the beginning, or I was basically was mentioning this quote from Leonardo da Vinci about the simplicity. So if I ask you actually, and you had to describe in one sentence the old culture and the shift, the new culture, what it would be?
I would say from central to decentral.
Okay.
In one sentence. What do I mean by that? When you are a localized or regional company, it's easier to take decisions centrally. And to centralize decisions because you can overlook the development, you can overlook portfolios. The more you get, the bigger you get and the more globalized you get, I have no chance to overlook the entire portfolio, not even personally, but also not central teams. So what we need to achieve is to enable our teams, no matter where they are located, to be able to take decisions locally for the best interest of VIG Re. Because they know the circumstances, they know the country, they know the client. They can best judge of what is a good transaction, what is a good business for VIG Re and whatnot. And that is the cultural change we are maintaining and which we're entertaining, that we are moving from a more centralized steered organization to a more decentralized steered organization, and really distribute responsibilities across the organization to put the decision power where it should sit, close to the client.
And the ownership, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. And the ownership that goes very much along with it. Yeah.
And this is not very easy, right? Actually, at least in my experience, because people are usually asking for the responsibilities, but not that much for the ownership.
Exactly. It's two sides of the coin, right? Okay. You have empowerment on the one side and then accountability on the other side. And we even stated it out very, very deliberate to say we want an empowered organization. That is truly what we want, and accountability comes along with that we want people to be accountable for the decisions they're taking. And we need to acknowledge that that certainly has side effects, right? I mean, we are all human beings and mistakes will happen, and so do mistakes happen for us as well. And for us, it is to have the idea that a mistake shouldn't happen twice. A mistake is an opportunity to learn something going forward. And that is very important when you combine it with accountability, because we do not want to have people acting out of fear. Okay. Because if you're acting out of fear, I'm truly convinced that you make more mistakes.
Sure. This is how we have always done it. How often do you hear that sentence in VIG Re?
Less and less.
Okay.
We like any other company, I believe, we certainly have this this phenomena as well, and I even understand that. But I hear it less and less. So I'm now in that role in 10 months, and I put a lot of emphasis also in all the conversations I'm having to be brave and to move the boundaries we set ourselves, to move the boundaries we see on a daily basis, actually, in the business we're doing, in the processes we are following, and all of that.
Okay.
And I trying to encourage our people to be brave and to rethink of what you've did in the past and whether it's still good, which can be the case. I'm not saying that we just change things for the sake of change. That is not what we want to do. There might well be that we have governance processes in place which are still up to date, and some others are not. So I think it's this continuous reflection of what you're doing.
Okay, and is that so bright that all people do accept that, or does it mean that those who are not following those right needs to, for some reasons, actually leave VIG Re?
No, I believe it's a huge impact is by the leadership team.
Okay.
So I'm not alone, and I can't do it alone. I am probably the most visible person in the company, but it's not me alone. It's the leadership team, and I think this is a true leadership job to take, to be the translator of the messages I'm giving together with my board team into the organization, and then to adapt that very individually to the respective teams. And that translation into each and every team, that is what the leaders need to do. And I'm happy to support that. But I think that is most important, because my message is a more generalized message.
Okay.
I think hopefully also our listeners can understand what I mean by that, but it does not mean that it applies one-on-one to each and every position.
Okay, got you. Our motto at Kogi is actually we put the companies in motion, right? So how do you put VIG Re in motion, actually? And not only by the numbers, but mostly by the culture and by the people development.
Yeah. Well, I want to say through engagement.
Okay.
We try to engage people, and we're trying to do this through several formats. Certainly, the biggest engagement is on the team level, and is with your teammates, day in, day out, and very much also with the team lead. So I think that is what should drive you on a day in, day out basis. And beyond that, we installed several platforms on which we have exchange. So we have a specific management team exchange. We have continuous exchanges in the leadership team. I do, for example, breakfast meetings where all the employees can come, just ask any question they would like to ask, be it on the business side, on the strategy side, even on the personal side. We have what we call a social active day, which we pursue since many, many years, where we also get in contact with society, with very practical problems of life, so to say. Okay. As we are in reinsurance, has been in a pure B2B financial services organization, sometimes a little bit detached from what's going on in real life. I think that is also very important to get that connection. So there is several platforms where we try to stimulate that engagement across the year and throughout the company. I would hope that engagement is the magic word. And
hoping the activity and the number of the questions is growing, right, actually, within those sections.
Absolutely, even if I have to say, you wouldn't believe it, that the first breakfast was about 80 people. So it was a full room down in the basement, and I enjoyed the conversation a lot, I have to say. And there was no hesitance, so it was a lot of questions throughout various topics, and we ran out of time. Okay,
super. Frankly speaking, the first thing which really surprised me when I visited for the first time VIG Re was number of foreigners, or number of the nations which you are combining within the 200 people. You have roughly 30 nations, actually. Do you see that as a benefit? It's these kinds of the real diversity providing you with the extra benefits or whatever, actually, or do you see as well as certain weaknesses which that brings to the life of VIG Re?
No, bottom line, I see this extremely advantageous. It's very enriching that we have that many nationalities, and it's not about the nationality per se, but it's the background each and every individual gets along with. You grew up in a different culture, you grew up in a different company, you have been assimilated in a different set of values, and that coming together at VIG Re and to aligning that's the magic, and we certainly capitalize on that diversity throughout the company, I would say. That is a true benefit.
Okay, and if I ask you actually basically, how it affects the daily routines actually?
Well, there is one thing that sounds good, and it is good. But there is one thing you need to be careful about, and that is drawing hypothesis.
Okay.
So, because when you have a different worldview, or when you think about or assume something different from a different cultural background, you need to test whether your assumption is the same than the assumption of your colleague coming from somewhere completely different. So we are very deliberate in saying, don't take too many assumptions, don't take too many hypotheses, create the facts.
Okay.
Are we clear that we mean the same thing? So it's a little bit of this alignment which is required just to be sure that we are on the same page. But other than this, it's purely beneficial for us.
Okay, super. Just on the top of your head, will you find one moment when these actually diversity help you to provide a better solution or solve an issue, whatever actually?
Well, I would say it's in the small little discussions you have day in, day out. So I have a certain view to the world. I have a certain experience I bring to the table. And very often I find myself with someone at the opposite side of the table having a completely different view. And very often it's very good to have that, because it's completely out of my space. So I'm seeing myself sitting there and thinking, okay, that's not too bad. That's also the way you can think about it, and that is good actually. Okay. And I think in that balance, we try to move forward.
Okay, and you've talked about it a lot. That you are not the only one. That your leaders and leadership team is basically helping you with that change, which is ongoing. When deciding about the new leader, about the newcomer on a manager's position, do you consider as well as that specific situation in VIG Re, meaning that he will most likely lead the multinational actually team, not only the single Czech team or German or French actually? Do you consider someone?
Yes, we do. Absolutely. That is a part of the selection process, to which extent people are internationally minded and also embrace diversity, embrace the fact, for example, that we speak English in all of the locations, basically. You know that we are here in Prague, in Munich and in Paris, and certainly the overweight of Czech is in Prague, the overweight of German is in Munich, and the overweight of French is in Paris. That is not a surprise in terms of language, but nevertheless, we need to people to embrace and truly want to live in that environment.
Okay, super. Let's continue a little bit in our discussion, and we always put a little bit of the intention on the personal side, actually, right? And I was spoken a bit at the beginning about your CV. You started at the consultancy, and then you moved to, and you had a choices, either to move to the staying in the consultancy, moving to the finance or the other industry. I have chosen actually your insurance, right, business, because it's not very typical, and most likely are the only person we will ever had in our podcast from that business.
That would be a true unique thing.
Okay.
Well, I would probably answer it the other way around. I believe the industry chose me rather than I chose the industry. Okay. You, as you rightly said, I started in consulting, and more concretely, I started in banking consulting before the financial crisis, 2008 and 2009. And my whole mind was geared towards banking back at the time, because I liked the environment, and I felt somehow some talent and some strength around the financial figures, so to say. And then the financial crisis hit, and there was a very intense time, not only for us in consultancy, but for the whole financial services industry. And I simply had the time to move on and try something new for me personally. Okay. After a very intense time during that period. And then out of the blue, relatively coincidentally, I've got approached by a headhunter whether I could imagine myself working in the reinsurance industry. Okay. And I remember that call when I asked, what is that? I had absolutely no idea. So it came very, very out of the blue. So that's why I'm saying that the industry chose more me than the other way around. Okay.
But I was looking actually for the definition of reinsurance business, and sorry for that. It's really very kind of the public. And simplification is basically turning the chaos of the risk into something structure, measurable, and controllable, I would say, actually. Is that how you perceive that industry, actually?
That's how you could look at it, actually, yeah. We are numbers heavy, and we are certainly trying to get a risk assessment behind anything we do. That is true. So our business is risk. So the fundamental ingredient in anything we do is risk. In that sense, that's not a bad description.
Was there any moment in your career, meaning actually this reinsurance career, when you said, actually, is this really my world? Actually, is that something what I want to continue with?
Honestly speaking, I do not believe that I ever so fundamentally questioned the industry as such. It's truly a place I feel very very arrived, honestly speaking, because for me, the reinsurance as an industry is a very nice blend between insurance, when we speak about exposures and your clients, about people and people making still the difference in our business, even if it's models and technology, it's eating into our business. It's very a people-minded, people-driven industry still, business still. And also asset management in the end of the day, because we are transacting huge figures, huge numbers, and that blend between the disciplines makes it a very attractive spot to be in, honestly, for me personally, and I enjoyed this. If I look back to my almost now, how much is it? Almost 20 years in the industry, I need to say that I enjoyed the absolute majority of it a lot.
Okay. Do you feel more like the reinsurer expert or people manager?
That is a very good question.
Or both?
Yeah, definitely both. But I believe my focus today is on people.
Okay.
One of the big learnings I collected over the times, being a manager and being responsible also for people, is that people and a team that functions together and understand itself as a team does make a difference. Does make a difference for you as an organization, but also does make a difference towards our clients. Our clients feel, and I'm convinced about that, if we as a team function, if we as a team are creative, bringing true solutions at the desk for our clients, that's a company, that's a proposition you want to deal with. So it's not only for us, it's also for the strive of our business going forward. So I'm convinced about that. You have to know the fundamentals and what's driving reinsurance. That goes without saying. But my priority today is very much on building those teams.
Okay. If I am hearing properly the discussion which we have today, it's a lot about the balancing let's call it the conservativeness, because I'm managing the risk and a lot of money actually one side, and being agile and innovative on the other side, because that's basically where the trend goes and the growth strategy you have goes. Is that what would you describe yourself in the personal life as well, or you have it differently?
Well, I tend to see the glass half full instead of half empty.
Okay.
So I would say that I am trying to seek the positives and the opportunities more than just the risks and what could go wrong. And that is a fine balance, because we are, as you rightly said, we are in risk business, and we need to always think in scenarios, in what could happen. And we very carefully manage that. If we manage our company, we certainly very carefully manage still the downside scenarios, because the downside scenarios are at the end of the day what is driving our thinking. But if I think towards the propositions and towards the clients, I have more an upwards thinking mindset in what is possible, what are the challenges we now want to tackle. So I now hearing me talking, I believe it's indeed this fine line, basically, which you need to bring to the table, that you at the one hand side manage properly the risk situation and being aware of scenarios and having that truly in the center of our DNA. And at the same time, not acting, or not only being bound to that, but acting positively towards the business and towards the development of solutions for the clients. Okay, I think it's that balancing act. Indeed.
Okay, super. It's good to have it balanced as well as on your personal side. Otherwise, you need to play the role, which is not easy for anyone, right? Nobody can play the role.
But it's a good question, actually. I think I've never thought about it that way.
Okay. We are getting to the end of the discussion. Let's have a few last questions. The first is basically going back to the VIG Re. What would you see as the 2-3 priorities for upcoming 3-4 years for the company?
Well, certainly one which is there today and which continues to be there is our cultural program. As I just said, one VIG Re just started, and we want to continue to execute that. The cultural fundament of anything we do, that is a absolute priority for me, and that continues to be a priority. The other one is the adoption of data and technology, because that is also something that is. We're setting that up right now in our underwriting environment, and we continuously build that out going forward. So that is a priority today, and that continues to be a priority. I'm very happy that our COO leads all those initiatives, which can be in parts very technical initiatives. And the third one, I think, is about strategy. As you rightly said at the beginning, we are a continental European focused reinsurer today. We certainly continue to be continental European focused, but we are now exploring the next strategic elements to be brought on board, and how an expansion of the VIG Re footprint could look like. And I believe that is another priority that will drive the company over the next month and years, probably.
Okay, if I get on one of those actually priorities, and we still have a few minutes actually to discuss. You said actually the digitalization, automation, and on the top of that is always AI actually. And I'm not talking about these huge, investments and the project where you need to have the data in order, etc. I'm talking about the daily routines which might be changed by anybody, by each of your employees. They do not need to touch the IT at all, the systems at all. They just can use it to either change the routines and make them easier for them, or for the co-creation. Yeah. How far you are with these? I call it probably the Kaizen, right? The Toyota story. We call it already the new AI Zen, actually, where you are using for those little, but the continuous development steps in your daily routines. Is that something what you consider as well, or actually that's the still new topic for your guys?
No, it is a new topic, but we consider it nevertheless. So we are currently setting up, or we set up 4 use cases about AI, very, very much business-oriented use cases, basically, where we test out to which extent AI can help us to facilitate the underwriting process. So it should be engraved in the underwriting process. Okay. So for us, it's too early to tell you about the results, because that is it's very exciting and it's new for everyone. We're testing that. But yeah, it's true. It's you cannot basically have a digital transformation journey without thinking about AI these days. I mean, myself, I am convinced that this will be a huge game changer. And for us, the immediate next step, next to the use cases which we bring forward, is how we incorporate technology truly in our business. Okay. So very traditionally, there was the business, which is underwriting in our case, and then you had IT, and that was more a back office function, basically. Yes. And I believe we need to move forward in that sense, that business and technology comes much closer together. Yeah. And that is the next priority we are having. And all the initiatives which are lined up today at VIG Re are aiming to bring those 2 elements closer together. And on the back of that, then to test certainly use cases going forward. Okay.
I ask you for 2 last questions, 2 advices. The first is actually about your experience with doing the business internationally, the real international business around the globe. Would you give any advice to some of our listeners, some CEOs, some owners of the companies, how to approach it actually?
My experience is be yourself, be humble, listen, and go with open eyes and ears, and be curious in other cultures, with other individuals in other parts of the world. I was very often very much surprised about how rich the world is, how rich and also welcoming people are, and I think that curiosity would be my advice.
Okay, super. And the second is a little bit more personal. Would you give an advice on an interesting book you have had a chance to read over the summer or whatever, which you, again, from that similar reasons, recommend to Czech CEOs?
I don't have a particular. I read a book over summer, but I wouldn't probably not recommend that, because that was purely for fun, and I even forgot the title, honestly speaking. But what I'm doing now more and more is I'm listening into podcasts and here specifically into history podcasts.
Okay.
So I found my interest and curiosity about interests, and there is one podcast. There is several, but there is one I do listen relatively regular, and that is absolutely fascinating when you look back to the developments of societies, if the development of the world, you see similarities and completely new things as well. So that's very, very enlightening, I have to say. So history is currently my thing.
Okay, super. Thank you very much. As for the overall discussion as well, for very interesting advice at the beginning. So Tobias was the guest of CEO on the Edge podcast bought by Kogi. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pavel. It was my pleasure. Really good fun. Thank you again for the invitation.